Well, those were the headlines we were tracking for you today. Hello and welcome to Startup Street. I am Megha Vishwanath, and on What's Brewing, the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology has decided to put together a fund to help small companies in the IT, ITES and startup space with an aim of protecting jobs. The ministry is currently working on a fund of nearly 100 crore rupees, and more funds could be added to it in the coming future. My colleague Mugdha has been tracking the story, and she's joining me from Bengaluru right now. Mugdha, this seems like a small fund for now. Would this be enough? How's the ecosystem reacting to this?
That's right, Megha. It is a small fund as of now. It's less than rupees 100 crores. In fact, we understand that it's a 93 crore rupee fund that MeitY is setting up to support startups and small companies in the BPO and the IT and the IT-enabled services space. But we do understand that there could be additional funds to this, either to this fund directly, or there could be a separate fund dedicated towards tech startups, which is what government sources are telling us. And this is largely going to, be aimed at protecting jobs. That is, this will help startups provide at least the nominal amount to employees who would otherwise have been retrenched, and that could be, as low as rupees 10,000 per month just to sustain those employees. So yes, I mean, we still have to wait and watch when this fund will be launched. We understand that it is waiting for final approval. So yes, it is a small fund. That is what the industry also says, but the industry is at least happy it is a start, because right now the startup sector has still not seen any kind of formal relief or support from the government. In fact, and this is despite 2 whole months of lockdown, which impacted businesses for startups across sectors. And in fact, even earlier this week, when the MSME package was announced, the startups did not get any specific mention there. So yes, startups now, we understand, are looking to register as MSMEs to avail some of the benefits that were announced for MSMEs. And just to list down a few, some of the benefits that were announced included 3 lakh crore rupees of collateral-free loans with credit guarantee, rupees 20,000 crore of subordinate debt, and of course that big 10,000 crore fund of funds for MSMEs, and with several other benefits as well. So yes, startups looking to register as MSMEs. In fact, we understand VCs are telling their startups to register as MSMEs, and one such venture capital fund is 314 Capital, which has asked a lot of its portfolio companies to register as MSMEs on that Udyog Aadhaar portal. So joining us now to talk about this is Siddharth Pai of 314 Capital. Siddharth, welcome on the show. And first up, if you can just tell us what is the advice that you're giving startups, and are a lot of your portfolio startups now looking to register as MSMEs?
That's right. I think so. Most of the entrepreneurs have actually come to a conclusion now that startups are no longer the flavor of the season. They've all realized that the government's concentrated their efforts more on MSMEs than anything else. Thankfully, with the new definition of MSMEs that have come out, a number of startups now actually qualify to actually start registering themselves as MSMEs. So we as a fund, what we've actually done is, since the very first week of April, when the very first 1.75 lakh crore package was announced, we actually asked all our startups to actually, all our portfolio companies started registering as MSMEs as of now. A number of them have already done so. So it's hopefully some of the benefits that they would actually get as an MSME, they can actually avail of as of now that all of them have been registered with the authority.
Okay, so most of your startups then have registered as MSMEs. But tell me, will they really be able to take advantage of a lot of these benefits, especially, the collateral-free loans, especially for those MSMEs who have an outstanding debt? Will startups really qualify for that?
Actually, Mugdha, the surprising part is actually no. So one of the problems that all startups in India especially face is the fact that they actually lack access to credit. This is why a number of startups actually raise equity rounds or rounds of financing in order to subsidize working capital operations. The bank penetration and the NBFC penetration for startups is very low. And even with the announcement of the 3 lakh crore credit guarantee scheme, it only applies to those MSMEs or those now even some startups who actually have a loan outstanding as of 29th February 2020. So what we estimate is out of the 50,000 startups in the country, roughly about only about 8,000 to about 7,500 of them actually have some access to some sort of credit facility from a bank or an NBFC. These will be the only people who can actually avail of this. And it's unfortunate that a number of them are actually the larger startups, those who are valued $100 million and plus. the early stage startups and those just before the pre-series A are actually facing acute stress. They don't have any access to credit or any access to any sort of capital as of now. And there's a good chance that 20 to 25% of them may unfortunately go under and become victims of COVID-19.
Okay, so there could be victims of COVID-19 in the startup sector. Definitely, they are looking for some kind of support. But Siddharth, as a VC fund, what do you make of this fund of funds that was announced of rupees 10,000 crores? Now, there is already a fund of funds for startups under, the Startup India program, and you've also been investing through that. Would you, as a VC fund, look to participate and invest through this new fund that is announced?
No, we'd be happy to. So 314 Capital hasn't availed of the SIDBI's for 10,000 crore funds as of yet. We were planning on actually exploring this a little later in time. See, what's important to understand with the fund of fund mechanism is the fund of fund mechanism usually runs over a period of about 5 to 7 years. In fact, even the SIDBI 10,000 crore fund of funds, it's only about 35% drawn down in spite of being in operations for the past 5 years, for the past 4 to 5 years. So even the 50,000 crore MSME startup fund of fund will actually take another 5 years in order to deploy a large amount of its capital. So during that particular 5 years, the companies who are in existence as of now may not be able to benefit from any of the money coming out of it. But a number of venture capitalists, a number of venture capital and a number of fund managers are still eagerly awaiting the guidelines to actually come out. Because see, the way they define the guidelines goes a long way in deciding whether a fund can actually participate in that fund of funds and whether the portfolio companies can actually get the benefit of that as well.
Right. That's an important point you said. I mean, a lot of the benefits that were announced could be actually accessible only, say 4 or 5 years down the line. So, for the startup sector, what is the immediate need? What are you looking for from the government for some kind of support so that, like you said, the 25% of the early stage startups don't go under?
So I think one of the greatest means of support the government can actually give now is to actually expedite the income tax refunds that have been due to startups. A number of startups are not profitable as of now, especially the early stage companies and companies who are just 2 to 3 years into their operating cycle. And because of the way the TDS on them was actually up to 10%, a number of startups above 50 lakhs of revenue, which is above 50 lakhs of revenue, haven't got the income tax refunds yet. Even the recent announcements for MSMEs did specifically excluded out the private startups in the country. At least 90% plus are all private limited companies. So after all, a refund is their own money coming back to them. The government should actually make a special dispensation to release that refund. That refund would be anywhere in the median range of between 20 to 25 lakhs. That 20 to 25 lakhs would go a long way in helping the startups as of now. And along with this, any startups that don't have working capital facilities as of yet, the government should announce a scheme for them under the 3 lakh crore guarantee scheme for any startups who don't have any working capital to actually get an existing line from the existing bankers and for them to be covered under the 3 lakh crore scheme. A large amount of goodwill to the entire startup ecosystem and give them the boost in the arm that they actually need as of now.
Absolutely. Siddharth, thank you so much for listing that out for us, and thank you so much for joining us on this show. So yes, those are some of the asks of the startup sector from the government. But don't go anywhere, we'll slip into a short break. But coming up next, we have a lot of voices from the homegrown convenience stores in India. Stay tuned.
Welcome back. You're still watching Startup Street. In the first few days of the lockdown, supply chains were disrupted and migrant workers were unavailable, which impacted online grocers and regular delivery to consumers. However, traditional kirana stores, convenience store chains, and even offline grocery players rose to the occasion. The pandemic led people to go back to basics, and a lot of consumers, including myself, rediscovered their own neighborhood grocers. In this segment, we put the spotlight on a few of these players, and joining me right now is Sameer Modi, MD of Modi Enterprise and the founder of 24/7. Sameer, thank you so much for speaking to us on Startup Street. Let me jump straight to the big question and get that out of the way. Talk to us about the impact of COVID on your business, and tell us if you saw any surge in footfalls considering that people were going back to basics.
I think that we were taken aback when the lockdown happened, and that had a great impact on the supply chain. So what happened was that all of a sudden there were no goods available, and we saw people going towards commercial items they could use every day, eggs, essential items. And now we're seeing that because of that and supply chain disruption, our sales fell down by 50%.
Okay. Okay, but were you seeing an increase in the footfall? So you're saying that you were not able to match the demand because your supply chains were disrupted. Was that the problem on ground?
Yes, it's becoming better now because we had to reinvent our supply chain. We had to go into direct delivery to store. We had to go into neighborhood places, warehousing where we could supply to our stores, as well as we had to go to consolidators who had some stock and they could supply to us. But what happened was customers fell down by 50%, but at the same time the bill value doubled. So or it evened out more or less.
Okay.
And I
It eventually evened out. Now the COVID crisis. Go ahead, Sameer.
So I wish that we had been given a little bit more warning on the lockdown. If we had given more warning to lockdown manufacturers and the chains like us and the grocers would have been more well prepared that this is happening. Let's stock up. Let's do things so consumers can get what they want. And initial few days, we found that the lines were almost a kilometer long. And with the social distancing norm, people were waiting for 3 to 4 hours. So that became a challenging nightmare for us with limited opening hours at the same time. And because of this, coupled with blockades for people coming in, so our store staff fell down to almost 30% of our strength. So we were managing 90% of our stores with 30% strength. So it was a nightmare.
It was a nightmare, which thankfully is getting better for you guys. And of course, the ask that you wish that you got a warning of sorts was something that that a lot of companies have said. But of course, there are constraints for why that could not have happened. But Sameer, what I was coming to was the fact that COVID-19 crisis and the lockdown actually forced several companies from different sectors to relook at their day-to-day operations. The fact that you said that you were operating 90% of your stores with 30% of your staff meant that you had to reinvent yourself. So talk to us about some of the changes that you brought about at 24/7 and the business model, or just your simply everyday operations.
So one is that we innovated our supply chain. We were originally warehouse-led. We went into direct-to-store. We created sub-warehouses so that we could ensure smoother supplies, and we de-risked our existing supply. That's one change we brought. The second change we brought really was on how we interact with the customers. With the lockdown happening, with the social distance norm happening, we made circles on the floor that could give the 3 meters distance between one customer to another. But at the same time, the pressure increased simply because we had to. Customers were desperate. They wanted the goods that we had and the goods that we didn't have. So, I mean, I've been visiting stores ever since the lockdown, and it's amazing how I find these guys, the store guys of 24/7, as the heroes. They put their families first, and they just been there doing this nation a service. So we had to change that. We had to change.
Absolutely.
We had to change how we
these are the guys. Yes, these are the guys who've been working on the front line, Sameer, and the fact that you've highlighted that is definitely true. They had to be patient. They were working on ground during the lockdown, during a pandemic. But Sameer, since we're a little short on time, let me, we'll continue talking about 24/7, but let me quickly also focus on your other vertical of Modi Enterprises, which is Color Bar. So while 24/7 was up and running in whatever way and form, because it fell in the essential services category, operations for Color Bar would have hit a complete standstill. What was the impact on this non-essential side of your enterprise? If you can quickly highlight this for us.
I mean, with Color Bar, we were actually zero. And we had to run government draws, pay our 1,800 beauty advisors. We had to pay our entire staff. And other Modi Enterprises, we are a very caring organization. So we don't believe in letting go of anyone. And the impact of that has been tremendous on the bottom line and on our ability to survive. That all of a sudden the brand is growing. March was a big month. Sales went down to zero toward the end of March. Sales are zero currently. Very, very little sales are happening on the internet. E-commerce companies are shut down. So overall, it's almost like our legs and hands were cut off. We are just left in the cold. And in other countries that I've seen, that there's a lot of support for manufacturers and marketers in terms of government paying the salaries. Nothing came our way. So we are just stuck. We are stuck dead in the water.
Okay. While you say that nothing's come your way, of course, we've been hearing a lot of measures being announced by the finance minister. Anything that were announced that you think would be beneficial for you, Samir, and for the Modi enterprise at this point?
I think that the benefit that government has announced, one is the 10% PF going down from 12%.
Right.
The government has announced other measures of de-risking the essential category and adding more goods into that will have an effect long term. Short term, it doesn't has any effect on 24/7 because we don't manufacture any goods. But Modi Care, my company, other company, Modi Care, definitely has a greater impact because we manufacture 450 items. So I'll be able to see a tremendous effort there.
All right, Samir. So lots of verticals for you to manage right there. And of course, you said that the first few days were an absolute nightmare. But thank you so much, Samir, for sharing those details with us. We will, of course, catch up with you in a couple of weeks to just check in and find out how things have gotten better for 24/7. At this point, I would now like to also bring in our next guest, Kunal Kumar, CEO and MD of Modern Bazaar, and Amit Datta, CEO of La Marche. Gentlemen, thank you so much for speaking to us on CNBC TV 18. Kunal, let me start this conversation with you. You've been in business for a very long time, and talk to us about the lessons that you've learned during this lockdown. Can you sum up what the last couple of months was for you like?
Yeah, we've had a lot of experience, but we had no experience to encounter a situation like that. Fortunately, after the first 10 days, first 10 days, obviously everybody knows panic and everybody was just holding stuff and, nobody knew what was happening. But after that, when we got our bearings, we started, realizing that the customer has to be satisfied, and we, fortunately, my staff was there. We had around 60 to 70% staff after the first 10 days. And, they were motivated and they were passionate that they have to take care of the customer. So I think we basically, by the time we realized, 1st April, we were doing fine. We had online deliveries going on, and we had home deliveries with WhatsApp. We have around 20,000 SKUs on our lists, and obviously there were shortages. Right. But I think the basics, the government was quite clear that the basics have to reach the customer, and we were the end point. We made sure that the customer is getting what he deserves, right?
Is getting what they need, and you guys were filling that gap, definitely, Kunal. And as you said, and as Samir mentioned earlier as well, the first few days were a nightmare, but you had to take each day as it comes. Amit, let me quickly come to you at this point, purely because, you've been offering, or what you offer is more niche, it's more premium, be it groceries or imported products that are at your racks, and that's been your USP. You have shared with us that your footfall did decrease by almost 50%. But did you at any point feel like you have to break away from your core business and at least during the lockdown expand to regular supplies? Was that something that you considered?
So I think it's a bit of a misnomer that La Marche only caters to premium stuff. We do have premium stuff in large quantities, but we also actually serve the basics. So, at least from a merchandise point of view, it's basic to exotic. That's the way we look at it. Purely, let's say, as the business model, one of the key learnings for us was that, the overall offering as far as our own jobs were concerned evolved, because we realized that, something which was as mundane as a business and, running out to beat competition was suddenly now a social and a moral responsibility to ensure supplies for our consumers, which is where I think, the manpower that we had actually rose to the occasion. We also realized that rather than looking at depth in merchandise, it will be more important that we look at width, so that we are able to offer the entire grocery basket to our consumers. And that is something that we've also realized has paid us dividends, because whilst the number of bills has gone down to about 50%, but our SKUs per bill has actually more than doubled. So from a net impact perspective, we've actually doing better. And hence that has helped because this is a trend that we were able to identify pretty earlier.
Okay, Amit. So you're saying that this is a misconception that you're only a premium brand, and maybe people will start saying that they bought moong dal from La Marche, and that would become the new normal. But Kunal, at this point, let me talk to you about some of the numbers. Can you give us a sense of the sales that you saw through the lockdown, and can you give us a comparison as to what that was in a pre-COVID period?
I think around the 15th of March is when people started, panicking a little bit, and sales obviously went 3 to 4 times that time. And again, when the lockdowns were, just before the lockdowns, the customers basically thought that even the essentials will be shut, so they were a little panicky. So it was very high. But the government was very, very clear about, they always used to mention that, essentials will be on and you don't have to worry. And but still, people thought maybe the supply chain will be affected and things will not reach them, basics like milk and butter, curd, all these things. But I think everything has been very, very smooth where this has been there. And they made sure that, because we are the end, we are the face, and we are the ones who give the customers the product. And once we get it, our supply chain is efficient, then everybody gets everything. So we got
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Amit, I'm very, very short on time, but could you quickly give us an idea? You said that there was an increase in the average bill. What was that value like? Just give us a sense of what kind of figures are we talking about in terms of the sales that you saw during the lockdown?
See, as in the initial period of the lockdown, obviously the sales were 2 or 3 times compared to the average. Right now, it's more stabilized, and we are looking at reasonable double-digit growth. And if the regulations are eased out in some of the locations that we are in, it will just help us better.
All right. Amit and Kunal, thank you so much for sharing those details with us. And of course, it is no secret that everyone turned into Instagram chefs during the lockdown. But on a serious note, you guys were there during a time of the crisis, right at the front line. Thanks a lot for speaking to us. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of Startup Street. But don't go anywhere. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned.